Hello, I'm Leah Crawford, one of the Opening Doors authors. In this learning journey, Mini Beast Magic, we're going to explore the wonderful world of insects in quite a new way. We are going to think about how a poem that is about insects can affect your feelings, and you're going to be having a go at writing your own poem that tries to affect the feelings of your readers. The first step is to think about this question. Do different insects make you feel differently? Looking at that beautiful illustration by Victoria Cox might help you. Do you feel the same about a butterfly as you do about a beetle or indeed a worm? Stop the video, have a think, have a talk with others, and see what others think and whether they agree with you. Let's take that thinking into some writing. So, select your favourite insect and find what you think is the best adjective to describe it and celebrate it. Match that adjective to one of those nouns. Then set yourself a challenge. Choose one of these insects that is harder to celebrate. Perhaps that gnat that bites us and gives us an itchy spot might be the greatest challenge. What could you find to celebrate in that insect? What is special about it? So pause the video and try to match celebratory adjectives to two of those insects. Now, I imagine what you did with your adjectives is to put them before the noun, like I have done here. So here's where I've had a go: delicate butterfly, glossy beetle, not just black, and really worm, a little bit of a comic phrase. Now, I have a choice. I can actually put that adjectival descriptive information after the noun with a little bit of help from some conjunctions. Butterfly so delicate. Beetle with glossy shell, so I use that preposition with. Or worm that wriggles in rings. That's my favourite phrase on the page, I think. So I use that connective, and then wriggles in rings, far more poetic, I think. We've got the repetition of that R sound, but it's got a much bouncier rhythm as well. So I'm most pleased with that one. Pause the video and have a go yourself. See if you can have a play, have an experiment with your noun phrases and put that information with a word like so or with or that to put the information after the noun. Now we're going to build that challenge. See if you can celebrate every one of these insects that appears in the poem that's on our horizon. Try and write a noun phrase for every insect. You might need to find out more information about them. It might be fact-finding. It might be a different kind of knowledge where you need to get outside, observe these insects and the way that they move and where they live. You need to observe them. Yeah, that's a kind of knowledge in itself. So get to know these insects, know some information, and try to find a celebratory adjective for every one of them. Now you have a choice. Are you going to put that before or after the noun? Have a play with that. Now here's an example from a Year 2 class that I worked with in Overton Primary School in Hampshire, and they challenged themselves to put the information about the insects always after, because they hadn't really played with that before. So let's have a read of their class poem. Crickets so croaky, worms so curly, moths with delicate wings. Crickets that spring, gnats that dance crazily, beetles with ebony shell, grasshoppers that sing with their wings. Beautiful. And they chose that final line, needed to go at the end there because it gave that sense of an end point. It gave that sense of finality at the end of their poems. Very clever of them. Now that we've played a lot with our own writing and our thinking and our celebration of every insect, I think we're ready for the complete published poem. Here we go. Hurt no living thing. Ladybird, nor butterfly, nor moth with dusty wing, nor cricket chirping cheerily, nor grasshopper so light of leap, nor dancing gnat, nor beetle fat, nor harmless worms that creep. It's such a joy to get the sounds of this poem in your mouth. I would really encourage you to pause the video here and have a play with lifting these words off the page and reading it aloud for yourself at least twice, and play with the mood of the different lines in this poem. Are some of them quite serious in their mood and their feeling? Are some of them more playful? Are some of them more joyous? Are there different moods in it? Get these words in your mouth and have a play. Now you've lifted the words off the page, you're ready to think more deeply about the poem. How does the poem make you feel about these insects? Do you feel differently about any of them now that you've read Christina Rossetti's words? And do your feelings change as you read from the first line to the final line? Just pause the video. I'm going to do some thinking, some talking, maybe even some jotting around the poem. Hearing what other pupils have said can really help to move your own thinking on. So I've included here some thoughts from the same Year 2 class I'd worked with when they were responding to the poem. So, thought here, the line hurt no living thing made us feel a bit worried. That hurt no command verb at the start, I think these pupils felt the seriousness of that line. Another group felt that very same line was peaceful. Hurt no living thing. I wonder if they were imagining it to be more like a prayer than a command. Another group felt that repetition of nor dancing gnat, nor beetle fat. They felt the rhythm of that lent some happiness to the poem. Another group felt the dancing adjectival choice for the gnat made it far more unusual than they had thought before, and that was a real celebration. Another group noticed the repeated sounds, initial sounds, chirping and cheerily, alliteration, added to the excitement of the line about the cricket. Have a pause, have a think. Do you agree with these pupils' thoughts? Have you got thoughts of your own about how those different lines made you feel? This is what's at the root of the poem. Now you deserve to know a little more about our poet, Christina Georgina Rossetti, who wrote poetry throughout her life. She was such a nature lover. Lots of her poetry celebrates a human's relationship with nature. Though interestingly, for much of her life, she had to live in the city to earn money for her family and was separated from the countryside that she loved. I wonder if we can hear that separation in her poetry. Is nature all the more precious to her because she can't live in the countryside where she would like to? Also, when I found out where this poem was first published in an anthology for children called Sing Song, a nursery rhyme book, it made me wonder about the power of poetry, that it has song-like qualities. How can you hear that this is like a song? How might it be like a nursery rhyme? And then thinking back to those Year 2 pupils that I worked with who thought this was very serious but also calming, they likened the poem to a prayer. Do you think it's like any of these things? Do you think a poem can be all of these things in one? Now, let's take a final deep read into our poem with a big opening doors question. How does Christina Rossetti celebrate insects and their different kinds of beauty? in the way that she has written the poem. I've drawn out 4 aspects for you here that might help you go deeper with your understanding. So, have a look at the length of those noun phrases. They are different for different insects. Here's a hint. Look at that second line with the ladybird and the butterfly. Are there any adjectives? And then look right to the end at the worm. Why might that be? Think also about what is repeated in the poem and what that adds to the mood of the poem. So there's the repetition of the gnaw, but also there are repeated initial sounds like the chirping cheerily that the year twos noticed. Think about the rhythm of the poem. If you've got it aloud in your mouth, you might have noticed that there are 4 beats in each line that help you sing it like a song. And see if you can spot the rhyme scheme in the poem as well. Where are there rhyming lines and what does that add to the mood, the feeling of the poem? Finally, pupils have taught me so much about this and made some very interesting responses. Why has Rossetti put the insects in the order that she has? Look at those ones she mentions first. How do they change all the way through the poem to that final line about the worms? Have a good deep think about that and try to link that to her purpose of celebration. Right, let's use that deep understanding of Rossetti's poem to do our own writing. Now, what have we learnt from here that we could carry into our own choices? You could start your poem like she did with that strong command verb. Could be the same as hers, hurt, no. It could be see, how. It could be care, for. Different kind of tones there, different options. You might find one of your own. You might celebrate just one living thing. It may not be a series of them like she did. Some children have chosen an animal or an insect who is in danger of extinction. And that gives their poem a real preciousness, a real urgency. What are you going to choose and why? And if there are a series of insects or beasts, in what order will you put them in? Now that we've learnt why Rossetti put them in the order that she did. We have also experimented, haven't we, with those noun phrases. You can put adjectival information before and after the noun, and that has different kinds of effects. Play with that, experiment. There are sound effects which are like music in the poem. So there's repeated initial sounds that we call alliteration, like chirping cheerily and light of leap. Create a music on the page. Do you want to play with that? You don't have to make your poem rhyme. If you want to give yourself that challenge, you can try that. Remember, it's not every line that has to rhyme. You could aim for a regular number of beats in each line because that makes it sound like song music. That might not be the effect that you want. But remember, success in writing is not achieving all of those bullet points. The real sense of success you will get is from reading it to a listener and seeing how it affects their feelings. That's the thing to check. Read it aloud to each other. See what you think of each other's writing. That's the real golden test. We get better at writing through more reading. So here is a reading suggestion list. All of these poems are about other insects, mini beasts. I'll pick out just a few. Jan Dean's poem, I Caught a Grasshopper, has a lovely story running through it, but I think some real similarities with Rossetti's poem, although Jan Dean is living poet, is a modern poem, and I'll pick out one that is really different. Chrissy Gittin's Wasp on the Tube has some amazing sound effect in it and a beautiful sense of comedy, still with a serious message. Our final plea, after you have played with language, celebrated some beasts in your poetry, we would love to hear it. Our wonderful publishers, Crown House, can host your work on their website. The link is here in case you want to see how other pupils have responded to rich poetry and prose through our books. All you need to do is ask an adult to mail your work to us, which means that they're giving their permission for us to read it and to publish it on our site. Do hope you've enjoyed our journey through this rich text and enjoy experimenting with the celebration of nature in your own writing.